Classroom Idaho, Learning at Home. The Idaho State Department of Education and Idaho Business for Education is partnering with Idaho Public Television's education team.
Happy Friday, kiddos. All week long, we've been talking about the American Revolution and mathematics embedded in those American Revolution contexts. And we've been learning about different people and events and some really key situations that led us to declare independence from England. And that's the story of us. It's the coolest story ever. So today, also embedded within the context of the American Revolution, we're going to look at some science. So we're going to begin with some of the conditions that existed in the colonies, and that's going to lead us to a discussion about water and what was going on with their water back then. It was kind of a hot mess. And I invited a few of my students to come and do a lab experiment with us, to do an investigation. So I thought it'd be fun to see some kids that I teach here in Boise, and they were really excited to share this lesson with you as well. So let's get started. So we're going to look at this really short snippet from history.com, which was talking about sickness and disease at Valley Forge. So I wanted to preface that Valley Forge was a military camp run by General George Washington, and it wasn't all smooth sailing. So let's look at what happened there. Cold and starvation at Valley Forge were not even the most dangerous threats. Diseases proved to be the biggest killer. As the National Park Service says, disease was the true scourge of the camp. By the end of the 6-month encampment, some 2,000 men, roughly 1 in 6, died of disease. Camp records indicate that 2/3 of the deaths happened during the warmer months of March, April, and May, when soldiers were less confined to their cabins and food and other supplies were more abundant. The most common illnesses included influenza, typhus, typhoid fever, and dysentery, conditions most likely exacerbated by poor hygiene and sanitation at the camp. So back then, I mean, they were in tight quarters, they were low on supplies, and if you've been watching some of the other videos leading up to today, Hamilton did a lot of the writing for General George Washington and was writing to Congress saying, you have no idea how bad the conditions are out here. The men are starving. They have no shoes. He was like, we've resorted to eating our horses. And so Valley Forge was a low point in the war, low point for George Washington. So going back to the most common illnesses. So yes, starvation was a thing. They were undersupplied. They were tired, low morale, but there was a lot of disease and funk going on because of the dirty water. They were having their latrines, their toilets close to their water supply. Things weren't being sanitized or boiled. And in their defense a little bit, they didn't know what they didn't know. And we had talked about in a previous video where Marquis de Lafayette had come in from France to help in the war. Well, George Washington was a smart guy. He brought in experts and generals and commanders from other countries in Europe to come and help lead his men, help get everybody in shape to be able to defeat the British. And there was one officer that came from Europe, General von Steuben, that when he came over, he saw the condition at Valley Forge and he's like, this has to stop. First thing, we got to get these men healthy. You got to stop putting your toilets near where we're going to drink. He really demanded some rules and regulations when it came to sanitation and the health of the camp. So let's take a little closer look at the water issue. And that begs the question, so water at Valley Forge was a hot mess, but what about the other colonists, like in the places, Boston and the small towns where they lived? What was the water like for them? So here's a really cool article, and I would encourage you to look it up. This is from the National Museum of American History. We're just going to take a look at a few paragraphs at the beginning, but the whole article is talking about, besides tea, right? We knew tea was a major discussion this week and during the Revolution. What were the colonists drinking? And I learned something new reading this as well. So this is written by Melissa Swindle. And she begins, practically everyone in 18th America drank chocolate and tea, but what about cider, water, milk, and whiskey? Well, of course they drank water and milk. The colonies were an idyllic paradise, lush forests, rolling hills, crystal clear streams. Not so much. In fact, water and milk were big carriers of disease. Americans stuck with cider and whiskey because they were alcoholic. Alcohol-based drinks typically won't spread disease, and they had a much longer shelf life than non-alcoholic beverages. Even children drank alcohol. Of course, it was significantly watered down. Want to know more about cider, water, milk, and whiskey? Keep reading. The story gets better. So let's take a look at cider. Apple trees were not native to North America. The colonists had to bring apple trees with them aboard the ship to the New World. And because apple trees are not native, neither were the insects to pollinate them. Honeybees were also imported. I didn't know that. So the story of Johnny Appleseed spreading apple trees wherever he went is true. Side note, Johnny Appleseed is a story from the colonial days, during the time of the American Revolution is when he was born. Well, okay, he was actually a missionary named Jonathan Chapman who planted apple nurseries across the Midwest, but the concept is still the same. Other pioneers took apple trees across the nation. Later, some even went by wagon along the Oregon Trail. By the late colonial period, there were so many apple trees that everyone, even children, drank cider. That's hard cider. It lasts longer. A typical middling family of 6 drank about 90 gallons of cider each year. That's 15 gallons per person. So we're going to do a bubble map. If you remember a bubble map, right, which helps us define a topic or a person or whatever it is, that our subject within a context. So let's take a look at cider. So this cider, what were a few things that defined cider for the colonists during that time? We heard that apple trees were brought to the colonies from Europe. Fun fact. That apples were common throughout the land, which that probably contributed to drinking so much of it, right? And making the cider. Everyone drank cider, even kids. And cider was actually alcoholic because it lasted longer. Okay. Let's go back and read the next bit. So after cider is water, and that's going to bring us into the science of today. Let's see what's going on with their water. You probably learned that the colonists lived simple pastoral lives. And what would they drink besides water? Well, this is only half true. Colonists on rural farms or on the frontier could find natural, clean sources of water or could dig wells to reach fresh water. Colonists in the city drank bottled water from the countryside. City dwellers used bodies of water for garbage disposal, not drinking. Just slaughtered a pig? Throw the carcass into the river. Need to empty your chamber pot? That's their toilet. Dump it down the well. In defense of the colonists, they did not know about germs and bacteria. They could, however, clearly recognize clean water from dirty water, but clean water was only available outside the city. This would have been a problem if the tea water trade hadn't blossomed. And the rest of the article, when it's talking about tea water, that's imported water. It's like the first version of bottled water. They'd bring it in big barrels and kegs into the city and sell it because city water was so gross. It was a garbage dump, essentially. So let's do a bubble map on water. Okay, we read rural colonists had access to spring water. Those who live in the country, right? Not the city ones. Colonists in the city did not have access to clean water. In fact, they didn't have access because they treated it like a garbage dump. Bodies of water were used as a dump, like we just said. Gross. I had to include that. Yuck. Can you imagine seeing dead animals or the toilet leavings just in your river? Ugh. Colonists did not know about germs and bacteria. So, I mean, true ignorance, right? They didn't know what they didn't know. So we're going to take a look at the science behind water, why it's important for us to pay attention to what's in our water, maybe put it in context for the challenges of living during that time and getting access to clean water, and not to mention healthcare and what we know about bacteria and the human body now. And then my students are going to help us through an investigation to learn a little bit about cleaning water. We're going to do a little bit of science today, boys and girls, and I brought with me a few of my most favorite students. These are actually my 5th grade students right now. We are all learning remotely, just like you. So these kids agreed to come on and hop on Google with us today and do a little bit of science with us. So I'm going to have them each introduce themselves and maybe tell us one thing they love about science, or one thing they love about their family, or where they live, or their amazing teacher. Any of the above would work. Let's start with my top left-hand corner. Miss Jules, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Julia, and I love science.
Perfect. Joining us from her kitchen. Okay. Top center. Mr. Marcus, introduce yourself.
I'm Marcus, and I like school.
That works. That works. Even school from afar. I appreciate the good attitude. Mr. Oren.
Hello, I'm Oren, and I enjoy science quite a bit.
Good job. They've been trained well. Peyton, down lower left corner.
Hi, I'm Peyton, and I really like my teacher.
I will pay her $5 later, don't you worry. Okay, Skylar, last but definitely not least.
Hello, my name is Skylar, and I like math.
Me too. Math and science go hand in hand. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and present the screen, and I'm going to check in with my kiddos here and make sure they can see everything, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So we're going to be talking about water. Now, the context that we were just discussing was water in the 18th century, right? Water in the 1700s, American Revolution, kind of a hot mess, right? They didn't have the systems in place like we do now to clean water, to test water, and it became really dangerous for a lot of the colonists because the water was so dirty and was making people sick. So I wanted to have a deeper discussion about water, the importance of water, and how we clean it and how we appreciate it and how we use it and all of those things. So I'm going to have that discussion with my 5 kids here today. What is it that comes to mind when you see this planet?
I see a really pretty Earth. It looks like there's no pollution, nothing's wrong with it. It just looks perfect to me. But we know in real life that's not it.
That's true. We do have some pollution and some things that may need some cleaning up on this planet, but it does look really beautiful right now. Oren, what do you think?
I see a lot of water.
Water. Can somebody make a best guess or use some of the background knowledge that you have about what percentage of our Earth is water? How much of this blue planet is water? Skylar, what do you got?
71%.
71%. Did you cheat and see? Okay. You just knew that? You knew that off the top of your head? Marcus, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say like maybe 73 or 74.
Okay. So we all kind of knew it was in the 70s. That's the majority, right? Like 70%, 73%, either way, the majority of our Earth is water. So, Skylar, you were right. Okay? You were right. 71% of the Earth is water. That's a lot. Connection to our own bodies. How much of our bodies are water? Because when I think of the Earth, I think of it like it's this living thing. So how much of our own bodies are water? Who's got a best guess? Peyton?
Like half of our body is water.
Yeah, that's a great guess. It's a good guess. So half. Skylar, what do you think?
71.3.
0.3%. Good job. Boys, do you have a guess? How much of our body is water?
Isn't it about like 75%-ish?
It's about 60%. So more than half, right? More than half. I always think you were pretty close, Skylar. I see that. I always think of that when I think of the earth as this living space, right? This living, breathing organism, just like us. That's mostly water, and we need to take care of it. So I wanted us to look at the distribution of the Earth's water. So we know that the Earth is, the mass majority is water, but how much of that water is ocean water compared to glaciers, compared to ground and surface water? So what do you see on these graphs, kiddos? What do you see? So you have a set of data interpreted in two different graphs. Peyton, what do you see, followed by Oren?
I see that the ocean is way bigger in the pie graph, and then when you look at the other one, it's way taller. So then that's how I know that the ocean has more water than ice caps, groundwater, and surface water.
Yeah, so either the majority of the pie chart or the height, right, of that bar in the bar graph, you're saying I can tell that it is the majority of that percentage. And it says 97% is water. What are the other percentages? Can you interpret one of those graphs? They're not nearly the same percentage as ocean water, right, as salt water. Oren, what do you see on there?
I see that there's like a lot compared to like the 97% of the ocean and then the 2% of ice caps and glaciers.
Yeah.
It's a vast difference.
Well said, sir. A vast difference. 2%. 2% are the glaciers and the ice caps compared to 97%. So what are those itty bitty bitty slivers? What are those itty bitty slivers?
A groundwater. It says 7% groundwater and 3% surface water is what it looks like it says.
Yeah, it's probably small on your screen too. Is it 7% or 0.7%? Look at where the decimal point is. I know, right?
Oh, yeah, it might be 7. Yeah, 7/10.
0.7% and 0.3%. Here we go. So a natural resource. Natural resources. Anything that is useful or necessary for living things occurs naturally on Earth. So I'm going to ask you, my kids, is water a natural resource? I got a big head nod from Marcus, head nod from Oren. What? Thumbs up from Peyton. Water is a natural resource. Jules will be right back. Renewable resource means any resource that nature can replace while it's used. Non-renewable is any resource that nature cannot replace after it's used. So can you think of an example of a renewable resource or a non-renewable resource? What do you think, Oren?
A renewable resource is, for an example, is like a stick off of a tree.
So trees?
Trees, that's what I mean.
Trees, yeah, because you can plant more, right? They seed, they create their own seeds and can reproduce themselves. We can plant more seeds. So tree, yes. I don't know. The stick itself is a part of the bigger tree, but Oren, you're right on track. Peyton, what do you think?
Sorry. A non-renewable resource is a man-made a man-made wall outside.
Okay, so when we use materials up where they can't be replicated or use anything that's human-made, right? You can't plant a plastic bottle in the garden and grow more of it, right? So a lot of human-made production, a lot of human-made materials, yes, they're non-renewable. So when we're looking in natural, like where we would find in the natural world, also a non-renewable but comes from the earth naturally would be our fossil fuels, right? Gasoline, petroleum, natural gas, those things, once we use it, those occur naturally. We're pulling it out of the ground, but do they renew themselves? Do fossil fuels generate more of fossil fuels, or once it's gone, is it gone? I could read Peyton's lips. She said, once it's gone, it's gone. Yeah, so non-renewable, we don't get it back. Renewable, we get it back. So I'm going to ask you sort of a tricky question when you think about it. Is water a renewable resource? And we'll talk about why that's sort of tricky. Is water renewable? Julia, you're in the bathroom, so hit us up with some water knowledge. Is water renewable?
No.
Well,
I wasn't here for when you guys were talking about that, so I don't know what's going on.
Okay, so we're talking about just renewable and non-renewable. So renewable means any resource that nature can replace itself. So think about water.
Yeah.
Does it come back? Can it replace itself? You say yes, and I agree with you. Why? How does it come back? Skylar, I see you, girl. I'm coming.
Because every winter it rains, and then it snows, and then the snow melts, and then it just happens again and again.
Okay, so the water cycle, right? Yeah. So the water cycle, that is renewable, right? There we have snow, we have accumulation, we have melt off, we have evaporation, precipitation, again and again. So you're right, it is. Skylar, go for it before you burst. What?
I feel like, because if you have dirty water, that you can't drink, so then you put it through a filter and it's renewable because you put it through a filter and now you can drink it.
I love that you brought up the issue of pollution. How does pollution or something that's contaminated affect whether it's renewable or not? That's a good point. What do you think, Peyton?
If we can't purify the water, then no one's going to drink it, because if you drink it, you might get sick. So
go ahead.
So if we don't do that, we might get dehydrated, and then we're not going to drink enough water, and it's just
the vicious cycle. So you're bringing up a good point. Can you have a renewable resource like water, right? The water cycle, genius, okay? The fact that it restores itself. We've got a system in place in our hydrosphere that restores itself, but through pollution and contaminants, what you're talking about, can something like water become non-renewable? Can we kill it? Can we make it so it's not usable anymore? Yes, right? It's not good. Yes, we can do this, right? If some of the resource is usable by living things, only some of it, right? So if we're polluting and messing up the water, only a portion of it can be usable by living things. And we can make things non-renewable if it's used unwisely. Okay? And last, what my girls were talking about, if it becomes polluted, if we physically can't consume it, right? With water, that's what you're saying, Peyton, to where it becomes where we can't drink it and then we get sick because we need it. We cannot live without water. Speaking of water, Oren, before we move on, what's up?
I was also going to say, another example is kind of like electricity. Mm-hmm. It's not something that really naturally, reproduces itself, but it's something that we can make.
Yeah, definitely.
With
Yeah, so we humans, we utilize electricity with how we power things, but where we get the energy source to power, like our light bulbs and car batteries and everything else, right, can come from coal, can come from hydropower, solar power, etc. That's a good point for how electricity ties into our resources. Okay, kiddos, get into the experiment. Was dirty water, so picking up what Skylar and Peyton were saying, was dirty water only an issue way back when? So we've been talking about the American Revolution. We said the water source was a big mess. They didn't know what we know now. Dysentery, all sorts of funky diseases in the water. They're making themselves sick. Was that only an issue way back when, or do we have pollution and contaminants in water right now? I'm seeing a thumbs up, meaning it's happening right now. Is in some places in the world, is it worse than others? Okay, for sure. But is dirty water an issue anywhere in the United States? Oh, talk to me. I'm seeing a lot of this. Like, talk to me. Where is it, or where is it not, I guess? Peyton and Sky?
I guess in rural areas like where I live, like where the water is not really good because there's not a lot of people. So like the water source kind of maybe is old, so it's not really good with filtering the water.
Okay. Good point. So maybe some lack of infrastructure or lack of water sanitation in rural areas. Skylar, what did you think?
So it doesn't really have to be like just polluted water. It could be also like lead in the water, or if you don't get your water from a well, you could get it from like pipes, chlorinated pipes and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Which could also make it bad to drink.
Yeah. Did we have an issue here in Boise, Idaho, where some of our pipes were kind of funky and making the water not safe to drink? In our school, boys and girls, right? In our school, in our town. So this isn't an issue to where like, oh, water issues are somewhere far away, or water issues are only in developing countries. Water, like clean water, is an issue everywhere, including right here where we live. So I wanted to show you this picture. Sky, mute your mic, babe, so we don't get feedback. You're okay. I wanted to show you this picture as that it's not a problem. The pollution was not just a problem way back when in water. This is something from someplace in our country. And if we had more time, we would do a full picture of the day, observation, inference. But I thought it was pretty clever that they put eyeballs on that machine trying to clean the water. Isn't that hilarious? Look at that machine. What do you think it's doing? Can I get an inference or an observation just on this? We won't go too in depth. Marcus, what's going on?
I think that maybe like the machine is like slipping and like eating all the trash.
It's going somewhere. Do you see sort of like the conveyor belt where the tongue would be on the machine, like a conveyor belt pulling the trash up?
Yeah, maybe like that. Maybe like the trash goes on the conveyor belt and it like goes up into like, I don't know, like somewhere where they can store the trash that they pick up.
That's a great inference. I'm wondering if the back of that machine has a receptacle that's picking all that trash up, or maybe it's getting it to a facility on land. They got to get it out of the water, right? This is happening, I believe, this was on pbs.org. I believe it's in Baltimore, Maryland, that they developed this. I just thought it was really clever that they put eyeballs on it and made it like a water Pac-Man cleaning up the dirty water. So if we had to take a pitcher of water from that right there, that's our water to drink, right? If that was our water source, would you want to drink it the way it looks now? No, we would not. Okay. So we are going to talk about how do we clean dirty water, right? So we know we've got to filter that water. So if this was our option for water, would you agree we need to filter it and clean it up? Yes, we're not going to drink it the way it is now, okay? So I want you to think about natural sources. Sky, what do you think? Natural sources that exist in the world right now that sort of naturally filter the water. What systems are in place to clean water right now? Think of rivers, lakes, oceans. How does it stay clean? Even like take away the humans, right? Humans, we tend to dirty things up. Our impact on our world around us is evident. But how does it stay clean? Julia, what do you think? How does the water naturally?
Like there's some natural dams. Well, that's not a thing. I mean, like waterfalls, I feel like, I don't know. Or like aquifers.
Okay, so maybe you're talking about like the movement of water, like waterfall, rivers are moving, kind of keeps things moving. It's not stagnant and still. Water that sits still and has no movement gets gross. You're right. Have you ever seen a pond with like nasty algae and slime? That's because water is not moving. So Julia, you're right. That movement of water helps keep water clean. Oren, what's another like natural occurring source?
Fish.
What about the fish?
They sometimes they eat like stuff from the bottom of the, like, say, lake or pond or river or something like that.
Yeah, we've got a natural ecosystem that exists right inside water sources. So the biomes down, that exist within a river ecosystem or an ocean ecosystem. And so it keeps things in balance. Some parts of it eat the dead things, right? Plants or vegetation grow and put oxygen into the water and keep it clean and healthy. Definitely living things that occur naturally there help keep it healthy. Does anybody have another example? Peyton.
Water currents, they keep it moving so it doesn't get like really dirty in the pond.
Yeah, definitely currents as well. Has anyone from my group here, has anyone ever walked down to the Boise River and put your feet in the river? Yeah? What happens when you shuffle your feet on the bottom of the river? What happens? Marcus, what happens?
Usually you could maybe feel the sand and rocks under the river.
I just heard you name two materials, so sand and rocks. Skylar, what else do you notice when you shuffle your feet in the river?
The water gets all foggy.
Yeah, it does, right? Because you're kicking up the dirt, right? So why isn't the water foggy in our river all the time? That dirt is there all the time. Think about that. Why isn't the water dirty all the way to the top 100% of the time? Peyton and then Skylar?
Because even though there's water currents, that doesn't bring up the sand and the rocks. It doesn't bring it up. But we do. We make it move up because we're moving a little bit quicker.
Okay, so you're saying our energy, our friction, our movement is what kicks it up. But those layers of rocks and dirt and sand are always there. So I want you to think about that when we think about water filter. Those layers are there. How do the layers work? Skylar, do you have any other final thoughts? No? Okay. It is time for our science lab, boys and girls. Take a look at the materials needed. And for those kids at home, again, this is going to be posted on Idaho Public Television, their YouTube channel. So if you want to try this water filter, this is kind of like a homemade, we are replicating a natural water filter. So for this lab, kiddos, you're going to need either, we talked about a cup or a plastic bottle where the water can pour through. You need to have a receptacle, some kind of container that the water is going to pour into. Because if you just let it roll through your cup onto the carpet, your parents will have strong words for me later. There you go. Perfect. Some scissors if you need to cut anything back. If not, if you're ready to go, if a hole is already in it, you're good to go. Appreciate my kids showing their materials, what we've got. Yeah. Oh, Jules, are you going to make a hole in that? Are you going to make a hole in your bowl? Sis, if you're going to do that, make it a smaller hole. Don't make a hole this big or you're going to have a mess. Small hole. What's up, Sky?
My hole over here is
Nickel?
Less than a nickel.
That's fine.
Okay.
Jules, that might be a little too small. Maybe make it the width of the pencil, kiddo, like the pencil can fit through it. Okay. You're going to need a container, right? We said that. What is your water going into? So we're going to look at filtering our own water. We can do this. How does the earth naturally filter water? And if we had to get a scoop or a pitcher full from that pitcher in Baltimore, how would we get the funk out of it? How would we get the particles and things we don't want to drink out of it? Rocks. Everybody got rocks? So this is learning from home. So we don't all have the same materials. That's okay. You needed a cotton cloth, right? Like a bandana or an old t-shirt. Perfect. Okay. Cotton balls. Everybody got cotton balls? Excellent. Good. A coffee filter. Was everybody able to get a coffee filter? Very nice. Man, my kids are amazing. And dirt. Good old-fashioned dirt. Good deal. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is you're going to take your jar or your cup or whatever, and you're going to put the dirt inside of it. So Jules, not your bowl. That's going to be the filter. You need to create dirty water and set it to the side. We're going to replicate dirty water, just like I showed you in that PBS picture of where the water Pac-Man was eating the garbage out of the water. You need to make some dirty water. So go ahead and do that.
Wait, so do you put the dirt in the one with the hole or the one without the hole?
No, sweetie. So do you have an extra cup?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just make a cup of dirty water and set it to the side.
Okay.
Okay, go for it. Look
Do
at
we
my
use all of
kids
our
working
dirt?
away. Maybe use half of it in case we have time to do it again. Look at my scientists at work. What's in there?
Mud and dirt.
Yeah, dirt and water tend to make mud. Okay, Jules, that looks gorgeous. A big bowl of dirty water. Peyton's creating a witch's brew. I love it. Whoever made mud pies when you were real little? You're still little, you're kids. I can make a mud pie now. That'd be fantastic.
I
Okay,
made
Marcus.
mine. I garnished them with like weeds from my garden and stuff. It was amazing.
I bet it was. Okay, Marcus, how's our dirty water coming?
I do it with flowers. I put like flowers on top of my mud pies.
Nice. Okay, we got it. Would you like to drink the water the way it is now? Got a thumbs. Skylar's like, maybe. If you were dying of thirst, maybe we'd consider it. Yeah, we don't want to drink it the way it is now. We're going to build a filter. So we're thinking of things that were naturally occurring in the earth, rocks, sand, right? Maybe a cotton shirt, something that would have been available way back when. So we had been talking about the American Revolution. I'm curious to what their initial water filters were. When the water was nasty, how did they try to clean it? So for you, using the materials that you have, rocks, sand, cotton balls, cloth, you're going to take a clean receptacle. Some of you have cups. Some of you have looks like an old Gatorade bottle or a soda bottle. Go get it, Jules, if it's in the other room. A clean cup. The thing that has the hole on the bottom, that's where you're going to build your filter. So you need to make sure it's the one that's got the hole. Shazam, thank you. Oren, perfect. Okay, now before you build anything, pump the brakes. Scientists, we cannot engineer a filter without having something in our head, right, of what it's going to look like. Jules, do you have a question before we do this?
Do we make more muddy water?
No, baby, same muddy water. But before we construct it, will you please take your science notebook and draw a sketch? Do not tell each other, so keep yourself on mute. Draw a sketch of what are going to be the layers of your filter. So remember, that nasty water, the dirty water you just made, is going to go through a filter that you create to try to clean it up a bit. What order are you going to put your layers? Please draw it on your notebook. Do a quick sketch. Be ready to talk about it. Why did you layer it in that way?
Well, I don't exactly really get what he said.
Okay, so we are going to try and clean the dirty water that you just created. Does that make sense? Okay, so in the cup that you have with the hole on the bottom, you're going to build a filtration system in that cup, bud. So we've been talking about, like, how do you clean water? How do you clean dirty water? Now, all you have for materials are rocks, sand, right? The cotton, the coffee filter, and your fabric. How would you put those layers or levels using those materials to clean the water, because you're going to have to dump your dirty water through it and see how you do, right? Because we're trying to say, like, how did people a long time ago clean their water before full water sanitation systems were in place? I want to see what you can come up with. Please draw me a sketch first, right? Scientists, we sketch first. We think our thoughts on paper, and then we get into action. Julia, what's up?
I'm not very good at drawing, but I can understand it. So this is the bowl that all the clean water is gonna go into. The little smiley face thing beside it is gonna be the cup, and then I'm gonna put the coffee filter and then the fabric on top.
So the fabric will be the fabric's going to be at the very, very top?
Yeah.
I see. And then what's your next layer?
Then it's gonna do the coffee filter and then the bowl and then, yeah.
Where are your rocks and sand and cotton balls, or are you not going to use them?
I'm not gonna use them.
Interesting. Okay. Why did you put the cloth layer on top?
So it catches all like the maybe like pebbles and grass and the mud, and it'll like catch all the not runny stuff. It'll catch all that.
Okay. Anybody else ready to share their design? Okay, Julia, mute yourself, babe.
Oh.
No, you're fine. Oren, then Skylar. Skylar, or Oren, go ahead and share your design.
So what I made is, in this cup, there at the bottom of it there is some fabric, and then there's sand, rocks, cotton balls, and then the coffee filter at the top.
Okay. Why did you choose that order?
Because, like, kind of, so I did the fabric first because it's the smoothest. It doesn't have very much space in between it.
Okay.
And then I did the sand because it kind of all packs together, but
okay.
water can still go through it. And then rocks to just get the bigger stuff out, like chunks of dirt or something like that. Cotton to, I honestly don't know why. I just put it in there because I wanted to.
We're curious. We're curious what will happen. Nothing wrong with that.
And then the coffee filter, so if anything, like the really big things, like they'll get caught there, and then it won't like mush it all together.
Okay.
Like
go ahead.
rocks and sand and stuff.
Okay. Julia and Oren have already presented their design, so go ahead and build your filter. Do not pour the water in yet, though. We're going to do that all together. So build your filter. Don't pour the water in. Marcus, oh wait, Skylar is next. Skylar, what's your design?
Well, I got a big bowl, and I put my bandana, I drape my bandana over top of it.
Okay.
So I could go like that. And then I would put my water, but first would be my rocks at the bottom.
Okay.
And then the sand, and then I'm not going to use cotton balls. And then I'm going to put the water and I'd filter it over. So the bandana would get like the rocks and dirt out of it.
Okay.
Thought maybe it'd work.
I love it. Awesome. Okay. Marcus, talk to me about your design.
So I think I'm gonna have like the fabric on the top to like so that I can catch all the like dirty stuff and make the clean water like kind of like through.
Okay.
And then I can make it. I'm gonna put the cotton balls on next. So that for kind of the same reason. And then basically then I'll put the coffee filters. Well, basically the whole thing is that all of them will hopefully try to like stop the dirt from like coming with the water.
Sure.
Like then I'll put the coffee filters and then I'll put the rocks at the bottom.
Okay.
And I won't use the sand.
Okay. Thank you for providing justification. Okay, Peyton, you're my last one, kiddo. What's your design going to look like?
So at the bottom I have fabric, and then I put cotton balls like what Marcus said, I'm trying to stop the dirt. And then I'm putting rocks and then a little bit of sand to kind of, I'm trying to make it like what a river or something would be like.
Okay.
Background knowledge.
Okay. I love that. Nature has some good examples. Oren, thoughts?
I was just wondering, could we make any like last minute changes? Just take something out, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially if you heard the other scientists in the room, how they're doing it. Maybe you want to make a change. Jules, did you make a change or are you sticking with your design?
I think I'm going to make a change.
What are you changing?
I'm going to put the cup on top of the cloth. Hopefully it won't fall.
Okay, so the cloth will be your bottom layer then, the last thing the water goes through?
Yeah, to stop everything.
Okay.
And I will put the cotton balls and then the coffee filter.
Coffee filter underneath, cotton balls in the coffee filter? Okay. Sky, did you make a change?
I forgot about the coffee filter, so I'm just gonna put it on top of the bandana.
Like a little hat. Okay, perfect. Okay. Marcus is cutting something up. I hope that's not Dad's shirt. I will know my scientists are ready when they are holding their cup of dirty water. Okay, please take your dirty, contaminated water, the water we do not want to drink. Make sure that your filter with the holes in it is over that container. Parents will not be thrilled if we have major spillage. Pour your dirty water through and let's see what happens.
I'm going to move everything away from the computer now.
Smart. Very smart. Make sure you're on camera.
Mine just got stuck in the coffee filter.
What?
Mine just got stuck in the coffee filter. The water.
What do you think's happening?
The coffee filter is strong.
The water's not going through the coffee filter at all?
No.
What's below the coffee filter?
So it's going a little bit. It's just taking a while.
Okay, can you add some more water?
Oh, yeah. I just kind of poured it in there because it'll be easier.
Okay.
The coffee filter is too strong. The water is no longer going through it.
Interesting. So Jules said the same thing, like coffee filter, way strong. So are you getting any drips at all? Can you add a little more, Bud? Can you add a little more of the water? Okay, Marcus. Oh, is it coming through, Marcus? Is it coming through to the bottom?
Yeah, mine is like actually like going through a little. It's like I filled up a little bit of the bottle, but the water is still dirty.
I see that it's cloudy. Definitely. Let's analyze that all together in just a second.
I observed that when I put it through my little dripper thing, when it goes into the coffee filter I have, it looks like it's getting lighter, actually.
Okay. So not as dark as when you started. Good observation. Sky, what's happening over there? You got a lot. I see a lot of liquid sloshing around. What's going on?
It's stuck in the bottle, and it's coming out, but I have to squeeze it. And now it's like getting through the coffee filter and going through the bandana. Oh,
How's
and
it?
now it's dripping all over my leg.
Dripping on your leg.
Oh, I need a towel.
Mine actually worked. It's way less cloudy. There's just only a little.
Be ready to show us that. Because I saw how dark your bowl of dirt is. Oh, okay. Are there still some sediments in the bottom of your bowl, Jules? Did any of like the sand or anything get through?
There's no chunks at all.
Nice. Still a
And-
little cloudy.
Wait, I wonder what happened if I drank it.
Tyler. Don't do that at home, boys and girls. Don't drink mud water.
Oh, that's how we're recording.
Desperate times call for desperate measures. Okay, Marcus, how's yours look coming out the other end? Then Peyton.
Mine is just like looking way too cloudy.
Okay. Way lighter than when it started though, right? Okay, Peyton, how about you?
Mine is it's actually gotten way lighter, but it still looks like it's pretty dirty. Like when I put it through, you can see it at the bottom. It's like
Okay.
it's just a little bit more foggy.
Okay. Jules.
Mine's a little foggy, but if you had to drink, it would be safer than drinking the mud water.
Sure. And Oren?
When I add more water, less of it comes out. So if I like put some in, it comes out, but then if I add more to it, it seems like less is coming out now.
Maybe some of the chunks from your original cup of dirty water are getting blocked somewhere in there. I'm unsure.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's definitely cleaner, yes.
Yeah, I can see overall, all of your designs were able to filter some of that out. Okay. So we already did this. You sketched your homemade filter, right? You talked to me about why you thought those layers would work. All this effort to clean a glass of water, right? All of this work with the materials you had. I want to ask, what kind of connections can you make from this activity to our use and maybe even abuse, kind of going back to that picture of all that garbage in the water that the water Pac-Man was picking up? How can you connect your efforts here to water use around the world?
I feel like we're kind of like abusing the use of water because like some people, they'll just leave the faucets on, like when they leave.
Oh.
I see that quite a bit at like stores and stuff like that. I'll see it, people will just leave the faucet on. And then also like sometimes people will fill up a glass of water, like a big glass of water, and then take like 2 drinks and then dump it out. And so I kind of feel like we're taking advantage of it too much.
Okay. And in both of your examples, Oren, you were talking about water waste, right? Wasting it, either just letting it run or not utilizing it, even though you thought you wanted it. So water waste. Peyton, what other connections can you make? Thanks, Oren.
So a lot of people would clean out like their dishes before they put it into the dishwasher, but that takes up a lot of water. And so maybe get like a better soap because that's going to take up more water than you usually need to clean like one dish.
I get what you're saying, where people essentially wash their dishes before they put it in the dishwasher. So double use of the water. I get what you're saying. Skylar, what are your connections then, Jules?
I have something to say to add on to Peyton's thing.
Okay.
Like with at our house, you know, we wash like the dishes a little bit before, because if there's like food and gunk on them, the dishwasher's for sanitation like purposes. It's not to clean them. It's to make it sanitized, so it's not like you're eating off of a dirty plate.
Okay. So I get what Skylar's saying, if like water or food is caked on and it needs to be scrubbed a little, but maybe an adjustment we can make, instead of letting the water in the sink just run over while you're kind of wiping them down to put them in the dishwasher, maybe you fill the sink halfway and you use the same water to wash all of those or rinse them off, you know? So some way we've got to trim back that water use. Jules, did you have a thought?
Maybe not take as long showers, because I take really long showers, but maybe not take as long showers.
I appreciate that, kiddo. A little bit of self-sacrifice, less water use. Okay. So that notion of conservation is what you are all suggesting, right? It's protection and wise use of our natural resources, wise use of water, okay? Use fewer if we can, reduce our waste, of course. And where does that conservation start? All of your examples of using water in a better way, in a non-abusive way, as Oren was saying, where does that start? Does that start in companies or in businesses and government? Or does it start in our own homes?
It starts in our own homes when we waste our natural resources. Like sometimes people just chop down trees if like they're in the way. Like that's kind of bad towards wildlife.
Yeah.
Because maybe like some birds or squirrels were living in it, and now they don't have a home.
Agreed. It starts with us, is what Peyton is saying, right? It starts at home. Me and you, we can make different choices with our resources, including water. So I watched all of your efforts, scientists, to create that water filter and try to just get 1 cup of water clean. A lot goes into cleaning water. We need to protect our water sources. Okay, final fact of the day, since it's Earth Day today, happy Earth Day, everybody. The average person in the United States uses 100 gallons of water every day. What? Every day? So think about that's including water that's in the shower, the sprinklers, our portion of water, our responsibility. Like if we were at school and flushing the toilets, we have to take accountability for some of that too. So you and me, on average, 100 gallons a day. I just wanted to put that in perspective for you. That's 100 milk jugs of water every day. That's our portion, because we have to take a bit of like businesses and the buildings downtown in the city we live. We have to take ownership of some of that too. That's why it's 100 milk jugs. And that is 1,600 glasses, just regular glasses of water, kind of like the experiment you just did, trying to clean 1 glass of water to be able to drink. And on average, this is how much we use. Can we all do a little bit better on treating our water with a little more respect, the natural resource that it is? Gracious. Since we learned that only 1% of the water on our planet is for drinking, right? The 7/10 and the 3/10 of groundwater and fresh water, that's the drinking water. Can you go get a cup from the ocean and drink that water? No. So that 97%, and not the glaciers or the ice caps, it's us. So boys and girls, thank you for being scientists with me today. I loved watching your filters. That was awesome. If we had all the time I would love in the world, right? I'd love to see you develop your second phase of your filter. All right, happy Earth Day, everybody. Thank you. You 5, you're the best.
Thanks for a great week, boys and girls. I've had a ton of fun doing these lessons for you. I hope you learned a little bit about science today embedded in the American Revolution, and maybe it puts into perspective like how important our natural resources are to us, and that we need to pay attention to what goes into our earth and what we in turn put into our bodies because of it. So if you have some time, you should really try that lab investigation. It's a bunch of fun, and you learn something about the water filtration system. And, you know, take some time to get outside and look at the science that's all around us. We live in a really beautiful state, and so we're lucky to have science at our fingertips with the nature embedded in this place. So take care of each other, and have a great weekend.
Funding for Classroom Idaho has been provided by the Friends of Idaho Public Television, the Idaho Public Television Endowment, and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
You're watching Idaho Public Television's Create channel.